Good morning. I want to show you guys how to make a graph easily using Google Sheets. So I have some example data in front of me, and I just want to show you a few things first. So you'll notice that my first column is time. Time is always going to be my independent variable if I'm making a normal kind of line graph. So my xt graphs, my vt graphs, or even in this case, I can make an AT or acceleration time graph. I'm going to want to have my time graph all the way over to the left. It's going to come in handy later. Also, I know that when I was taking my measurement, that I was starting at a point where time was 0, but then I was taking data every 0.05 seconds. So instead of having to type through 0.05, 0.1, 0.15, and going down, instead you'll notice my first line is 0, but I've got my second line. What I said was A2 equals 0.05. So what that means is I'm going to say take this previous cell and add 0.05 to it. That's going to take care of this cell. But if I want to apply that for the rest of my time, I'm going to click here on this little rectangle square, that's the word, and drag down. So you can see it automatically generates the numbers all the way down. Now I don't need these bottom ones. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. Okay, so I have some time data, I have some position data, I have some velocity data, and I have some acceleration data. Something I want you to note is that for every single one of these things that I've measured, all these factors, I am giving a unit and a title in my first column. Okay, the very, very top, first row, time measured in seconds, position measured in meters, velocity measured in meters per second, acceleration measured in meters per second squared. Okay. I want to make that easier for me to read, so I have two options. I can either double click and make it stretch out, or I can take this first row, go up here to text wrapping, and say wrap, and it's just going to make all of that stuff fit within the width of my column I already have. And this is what I pick. Something else fun that you can do to make your graphs pretty is to highlight all of your data at once. Go to Format, Alternating Colors, and just pick a color. I like blue. And then look, it looks pretty. Wow. And I tend to bold my first row, my title, just so I can see it. Something else you can do is you can also highlight the whole thing again, make a border around the whole thing. And then this symbol here means vertical border, so that means it's going to give me between each column a border. I also like to have a border around everything, all borders around my column cells. Okay. Now that I've made my table pretty, let's make a graph. So there's an easy way to do it, and there's a less easy way to do it. All right. If I wanted to make a position versus time graph, all I have to do is highlight these two columns. Time's on my left column, my independent variables on the left, my dependent variable is on the right column, and all I do is I go up here to Insert Chart. I click Insert Chart. And we wait. And we wait. And there it is. So it came up and it got our data, but it looks really confused. So we're going to have to go back and fix it. That's really annoying. So let me show you a different way to make your graph. Okay, so let's just delete that. And I'm just going to click a cell, say Insert Chart, and it's going to say no data. I'm going to drag it over here so it's not in the way. We're going to get a data range. So I'm going to click X-axis, and I'm going to click Select Data Range. And I'm going to say, this is my X-axis data. Perfect. But now that automatically assumed that that was my Y-axis data because it doesn't love us. So we're going to do it again. We're going to add a series. We're going to select a data range, and we're going to highlight the next column position. We're going to say OK. All right, now it thinks that there are two sets of data going on at the same time, and we don't have an X-axis. We don't like that. So I'm going to click here on time. I'm going to add X-axis, and I'm going to select that time column again. Okay. And now I can delete my original series. I just want to show you all the things that can go wrong so that you can troubleshoot. Okay, now let's take a look at our graph type. I don't like this graph type. We're trying to show a change over time, so I need to make a line graph. Hey, look, now I've got a line graph, but I don't have any labels. So to add labels, I'm going to go over to Customize. I'm going to go over to Horizontal Axis. Oops, wrong one. I think it's, yeah, Chart and Axis titles. My bad. We're going to give it a title. We're going to say Position Time XT. That is the title of our graph. We're going to select up here. We're going to say Horizontal Axis title. On our horizontal axis, that is our x-axis. That is our independent variable, which is time. I'm going to give a unit seconds. Okay. Now we're going to give a vertical axis title. Okay. And that is our independent our dependent variable, the thing we measured, which in this case is position, which we measured in meters. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So right now we've made a line graph. Well, what if I wanted to make a scatter plot instead? So instead of clicking line chart, all I have to do is scroll down and find scatter chart and click on that instead. Now you're probably thinking, man, this data looks really boring for the first few seconds. Let's take a look at the acceleration data instead. So I want to change my data. I'm going to add a series. I'm going to select a data range, and I'm going to highlight my acceleration column. You'll notice that I'm always including that first row, my title column. That just comes in handy. It gives it automatically a name. Hey, look, now we're starting to see some change in acceleration. But again, I'm looking at stuff over time. So let's go back to that line chart. Oh, wow. This is way more interesting. Okay. This is just some basics on making a chart. Just to review, we'll go through the whole process again. Let's do the fast way this time instead of the troubleshooting way. So I'm just going to click a cell, insert a chart. I'm going to drag the chart out of the way because it never shows up where I want it to. We're going to add a series. Let's make a velocity time graph this time. So I select range, velocity. Hey, look, it's kept that series as velocity. Add x-axis. If we do this second, it might love us more. And our x-axis is our independent variable, which is always time. And then didn't like that. They changed how Google Sheets is run a few years ago, and it's never been quite the same since. But hey, look, we did it. We've got our x-axis saying time. We've got our series, or whatever's going to be on our y-axis is velocity. Customize, chart and axis titles, vertical axis title. In this case, it's velocity. Remember, we need a unit. And then horizontal axis title is time. Don't forget a unit. And then let's give it a chart title, which is VT, or velocity time VT. Great. Is this an appropriate graph for me to use? No, I want a line graph. I'm showing a change over time. Let's select a line chart. Wow. You can also select the smooth line chart if you're feeling fancy, but it doesn't really matter. Hey, something else I'm noticing. When I've got my velocity time, I can't see all of my graph. It stops at 50, but it's just because my line is 48, it's not showing up the way I want it to. So I'm going to edit my chart. Let's go to Customize. Let's go to Vertical Axis. And instead of having it our min and max value be automatically generated, let's do a max value of 55. Now we can see the top of our graph here. So that's just something else you can do. You can do the same thing with your horizontal axis. And you can go minimum value, maximum value. Let's set our max value is 0.6. We can see our data stops at 0.5. Okay. All right. I think that covers all of the basics for making a graph and kind of troubleshooting with a graph in Google Sheets. So I'll stop here.